The Ford Escort RS Cosworth is a sports derivative and rally homologation special of the fifth-generation European Ford Escort. It was designed to qualify as a Group A car for the World Rally Championship, in which it competed between 1993 and 1998. It was available as a road car from 1992 to Euro 96 in very limited numbers. It was instantly recognizable due to its large whale tail rear spoiler. The main selling point was the Cosworth YBT engine, a highly tunable turbocharged 2-liter engine which had an output of 220 picoseconds in standard trim. Tuning companies have achieved power outputs of over 1,000 horsepower. The car was widely acknowledged to have excellent handling. Development: Ford developed the car around the chassis and mechanicals of its predecessor, the Sierra Cosworth, to accommodate the larger Cosworth engine and transmission, whilst clothing it in Escort body panels to make it resemble the standard MKV designed under the guidance of Rod Mansfield and John Wheeler of Ford's SVO department. The styling was carried out during 1989, by Stephen Harper at MGA Developments in Coventry. The spoiler was added by Frank Stevenson, who originally proposed a 3-deck piece. The body tooling was created by coach builders Karmann at their facility in Rien, Germany, where the cars were manufactured. Changes were made to the engine management system and a new turbocharger was fitted. Permanent four-wheel drive with a 34/66% front-rear split came courtesy of an uprated 5-speed gearbox as used in the Sierra Cosworth. Recaro sports seats came as a standard fitment. Later production models were available without the oversized tail spoiler, although by far the majority were still ordered with it. Like its Sierra predecessor, they are commonly nicknamed Cossie by enthusiasts. The Escort Cosworth was a rare car, with 7,145 vehicles produced from the start of production on February 19, 1992 until the last car rolled out of the factory on January 12, 1996. A tiny number were unofficially imported to the United States, where it was considered one of the greatest performance Fords of all time. 2 versions were produced. The initial 2,500 units were homologation specials used to get the FIA accreditation for entry into the World Rally Championship. They were fitted with a Garrett T3 per tonneau 4B turbocharger. Among these initial units, a handful were badged as motorsport versions. These lacked certain refinements such as a sunroof and sound deadening. The initial cars included features that, although they made the Cosworth a more effective car, did not enhance it as a road vehicle, and once the rules were satisfied, Ford attempted to make the car less temperamental and easier to drive under normal conditions. The second generation, starting production from late 1994, were fitted with a Garrett T25 turbocharger, a smaller unit which reduced turbo lag and increased usability in everyday driving situations. With these later models, the whale tail spoiler became a delete option. Performance: max power of the road version is 225 horsepower at 6,250 rpms, while torque is 310 Nm at 3,500 rpms on 95 Romanian low petrol. Max speed is 232 Euro 237 km per hour, while the 0 Euro 100 km per hour sprint takes 5.7 or 6.1 seconds. The slower acceleration time is for the heavier Luxe edition. The Escort Cosworth was the first mass-production car to produce downforce at the front and rear. Motorsport: the rationale behind the Escort Cosworth's design was that it should win the World Rally Championship. This it did not achieve, but it did win 8 events between 1993 and 1996 as a Group A car, and 2 more in World Rally Car Guys in 1997 August, before it was replaced by the Focus WRC. The Escort Cosworth was developed by the Ford Works Rally team during 1991 and 1992. Its first appearances, prior to homologation, were in the Spanish Championship, in the hands of José María Bardolet, and on the 1992 Scottish Rally, where it was driven by Malcolm Wilson, who was also the lead development driver. Wilson was not formally competing in the event, but his stage times were faster than those of winner Colin McRae. During the latter part of the 1992 season, development of the Sierra Cosworth came to an end, and the works team drivers François Delecauer and Massimo Biaggian concentrated on readying the Escort for competition. On the Escort's first outing at World Championship level, the 1993 Monte Carlo Rally, Delecauer took the lead with Biaggian second. The pair led the event until the final night, when a late charge by Didier Auriol, driving a Toyota Celica, saw him win, with the Fords second and third. Nevertheless, the new car had demonstrated its potential, which was underlined the following month when Malcolm Wilson, driving a car prepared by his own team, briefly led the Swedish rally before retiring after an accident. The works team returned for the Portuguese rally. Delecauer led almost from the start and won the event with Biaggian second, establishing both car and driver as serious contenders for that year's World Championship. Delecauer won again in Corsica, and Biaggian in Greece his first win for 3 years putting them first and second in the Drivers' Championship, and Ford in the joint lead in the manufacturer's title. However, during the second half of the season Toyota driver Juha Kankkunen won in Argentina, Finland and Australia, whilst with the exception of Delecauer's second place in New Zealand the Ford's results were relatively poor, giving Toyota the manufacturer's title. Both works Escorts then retired on the Sanremo Rally, Delecauer after an accident and Biaggian with engine failure after a radiator hose split, but the event was won by Italian Franco Cunico, in a privately entered Escort Cosworth. It was the first time in several years that a privateer had won at this level, and in doing so he outpaced the works Lancia Delta Integral of reigning world champion Carlos Sainz, demonstrating the superiority of the Escort over the previously dominant Lancia. Nevertheless, the result was a disappointment for Ford since, although Delecauer won the penultimate round of the season, in Catalonia, he lost the world title to Kankkunen. Delecauer and Ford were tipped as serious contenders for the 1994 World Championship, especially after Delecauer's victory on the Monte Carlo Rally. However, Delecauer retired from the second round of the championship, in Portugal, with engine failure, and a few weeks later was injured in a road accident, which forced him to miss the next 4 rounds. Biaggian finished third in Portugal, but he was unable to keep up with the Toyotas, and his results did not improve thereafter, amid reports that his relationship with the team was deteriorating. He left at the end of 1994, and did not drive again at World Championship level. In Delecauer's absence the second Escort was driven by a succession of temporary drivers, including 1981 World Champion Arie Vautin, young Belgian driver Bruno Thierry and Franco Cunico. With the exception of Vautin's third place in Argentina, results were indifferent and the team faced some criticism for its dependence upon Delecauer. The final guest driver proved a greater success, however, on a one-off drive for the team, Tommy Mäkinen won the 1994 1000 Lakes Rally. Delecauer returned to the team on the same event but was still not fully fit and finished fourth, before retiring on the final 2 rounds. Thierry rounded off a disappointing season for the team by taking third place on the final round, in Great Britain. The Ford Works team closed at the end of 1994, and the rally program was handed over to the Belgian RS Sport team. Biaggian was replaced by Bruno Thierry, whilst Delecauer stayed with the team. The season was shortened to 8 events and servicing was much more restricted than in previous seasons. Group A cars also had to run with a smaller turbo restrictor than previously, which was a particular handicap for Ford, since the Rally Escort's 7-speed gearbox was not well suited to a lower revving engine. Delecauer, although complaining volubly in interviews about the rule changes, finished second on the Monte Carlo. Bruno Thierry then led the Corsica Rally and looked likely to win, until a wheel bearing failure, which under previous rules his mechanics would have been able to rectify, put him out of the rally. Delecauer finished second, but there were no further top 3 placings that season and Ford finished at the bottom of the manufacturer's championship. The experiment with RAS not having been successful, Ford took its rally team back in-house for the 1996 season. Thierry stayed as second driver, but Delecauer left the team and was replaced by Carlos Sainz. Sainz took third place in the Drivers' Championship, with a win in Indonesia and second in Sweden and Italy. Nevertheless, The Escort was by this time outclassed by the Mitsubishi and Tommy Mäkinen, who won that year's title, and towards the end of the season interest switched towards the following season and the incoming World Rally Car rules. Although it required some special dispensation, Ford were allowed to adapt the Cosworth into a World Rally car, to serve as a stopgap until a purpose-built WRC was developed. The semi-trailing arm rear suspension, judged one of the Cosworth's weak points, was replaced with McPherson struts, and modifications were made to the bodywork and transmission. The rally cars were to be run by Malcolm Wilson's team, now known as M Sport. During the 1997 and 1998 seasons, it went on to score 2 more victories by Carlos Sainz. With Thierry, Ari Vautin and 4-time World Rally champion Juha Kankkunen now behind the wheel of the cars, the Escort name finally bowed out of works rallying altogether after a double podium at the season-ending 1998 Rally of Great Britain. Outside the World Championship, the Escort, like its predecessors, was highly successful at national and European Championship level, winning many national rally titles, and in 1994 Belgian driver Patrick Snijers won the outright European Championship driving a RAS Sport prepared car. It was also a successful Group N contender. Tuning parts were readily available, and lower specification Escorts became a common feature on even relatively low-level rallies in Europe during the 1990s. They remain so, although many have been converted at least partly to World Rally car specification. The Escort also had a foray in Formula One, albeit as its safety car. It was, in fact, used during 2 Grands Prix in the 1992 season to trial this new safety concept, which was officially introduced in the sport the following year. WRC victories overall winner in the W2L series References: JEMS Race Engineering, Ford YB Engine Build Specialist gemsracing.co.uk. JEMS Race Engineering, Ford YB Engine Build Specialist gemsracing.co.uk. Monster YB Cosworth Engine, JEMS Race Engineering gemsracing.co.uk. Does this guy have the best job in the world? Drive, September 8, 2005, Cos's Return Evo News Evo. May 6, 2003. Retrieved March 20, 2011. External links, media related to Ford Escort RS Cosworth at Wikimedia Commons.